was doing my undergraduate studies, I was a volunteer youth leader with a kind of an evangelical youth organization called Young Life. And when we gathered for our youth group time, every time we would sing that Tom Petty song. We got to know it so well that the teenagers would just let loose in that cathartic scream kind of thing, free falling, and that would actually they came up with some alternate lyrics as well, if I remember correctly, which I'm not going to share right now. You can ask me later what exactly the alternate lyrics were. But in addition to that, the fun that we had, the more that I got to know these youth, these teenagers, I learned why they sometimes wanted to scream. I'll always remember one kid named Richard. Richard was 15 years old when I first met him. He was living in a mobile home in a cluster of other trailers at the bottom of a mountain ridge. We have a lot of them in central Pennsylvania. Richard tried to spend as much time as he possibly could away from home because his dad, whom he loved dearly, was never home. He was always at work. His stepmom was at home, but when she was usually drunk. Richard didn't want a factory job like his dad had that would, keep him away from home all the time and barely pay the bills. So Richard figured that his best way out of that kind of life was going to be military service, and he shared that with me more than once. Mind you, this was back in about 2008 or so, when the military of the United States, perhaps of Canada as well, was involved in 2 different wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. I personally knew a couple people who were involved in that combat, including one friend, Dave. I knew him from Boy Scouts, who was killed in active duty in Baghdad just a little while before then, maybe a year or so before. So when I heard this kind of stuff from this youth, this 15-year-old kid, Richard, I wanted to scream too. Or maybe I would do like the ancient Judahite exiles in Babylon and just hang up my instrument. I didn't want to do any more happy, clappy songs to distract from what I came to see as the poverty to death machine pipeline. Didn't want to sing Tom Petty anymore. I wanted to sing, maybe a protest song like Creedence Clearwater Revival, that I ain't no fortunate one. Or maybe a little bit closer to my age, I wanted to rage against the machine. I didn't know it then. I didn't know how to articulate it. But now I know that what my heart longed to do was lament. Lament is important for everyone, for all the people of God. I wasn't aware of lament because it's not in the Bible. Actually, the Bible is full of lament. Maybe you've noticed that a number of our prayers have been laments. There are many laments in the book of Psalms. In fact, there's a whole book of the Bible called Lamentations, right? Of course, today I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing on Psalm 137. It's one of the rawest lament psalms in the entire Bible. You heard some of the context of this psalm from Ian Gilmore just before he read it. That the Israelite people, the people residing in the holy city of Jerusalem, have been taken captive, those that survived the onslaught of the Babylonian army. They were taken as slaves to Babylon, the city of the people that had raised their homeland. And somehow they had the gall to ask these exiles to entertain them. The psalmist who wrote this psalm, I imagine that the psalmist wrote Psalm 137 as an act of resistance against the psalmist's Babylonian oppressors. It is lament. But that's not the only perspective that I've heard of it. When I was in seminary, I had a pastoral care professor, a guy named Lee Butler. He was also actually grew up in central Pennsylvania. He had this interpretation of Psalm 137 as describing lament among adolescents. Professor Butler taught that verses 1 and 2 expressed sadness. By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down and we wept. Sadness. The middle part of the psalm, verses 3 through 7, expresses anger. If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand wither. It's angry. And then, of course, the last two verses 8 and 9, express rage. Happy they shall be when they take your little ones and dash them against the rock. Rage. Perhaps you've worked or know or are adolescents, and maybe you can relate to this process. Maybe you've been in the middle of this process of sadness to anger, to rage. See, Professor Butler taught that, quote, we must walk with the adolescent, not dragging her along behind us. If we give the adolescent space to live out their anxiety and aggression, the anger won't turn into rage, unquote. So glad I kept my notes from seminary. Basically, Professor Butler was encouraging me and my classmates to give adolescents, to give teenagers room for lament. But it's not only individuals who have a need for lament. There are whole peoples, whole nations that need to lament. One of my favorite theologians, Walter Brueggemann, writes that lament is an antidote to apathy and oppressive powers like apathy. Apathy and numbness among oppressed people allow oppressors to do whatever they want. It doesn't seem like anyone cares about their bad behavior. Therefore, an expression of passion, like lament, destabilizes an oppressive status quo and causes cracks to appear in the wall of impossibility. And cracks are good in dark times. In dark times, cracks are how the light gets in and new growth can begin to sprout. Like how some years ago in the United States, in the 1950s, Mamie Till Mobley expressed her lament, the lament at the murder of her son, Emmett Till, by opening the casket so that everyone, including press photographers, could see her son's beaten corpse, beaten by white supremacists. And that lament caused cracks to appear in the white supremacy in the United States so that a civil rights movement could rise. Perhaps we can consider our own United Church of Canada history and remember how Alberta Billy demanded an apology from the General Council back in the 1980s, demanded an apology for the abuse of Indigenous people by the church. And we remember what happened after that. because Alberta Billy expressed her lament, faithful people in the church responded. They have apologized. We have apologized, and we continue to work toward truth and reconciliation. Cracks have appeared. New growth is coming. And very recently, we can consider the school strike by Greta Thunberg in Sweden. Remember, she refused to go to school, pretending that everything was normal while the world was literally burning due to the climate crisis. And remember how that lament led to a worldwide movement of school strikes by young people in protest of a lack of action about human-made climate change. Cracks are appearing. And with God's help, the cracks will continue to grow for new growth, new renewal at the COP27. And of course, today, whole societies need to lament as well, don't we? More than 1 million people have died from COVID. And many millions more have experienced job loss and isolation because of the COVID pandemic. Friends, all of us have experienced trauma. And we cannot simply enter the new normal pretending that everything's fine. Everything is not fine. We are tired. We are overwhelmed. We have a need to lament. And even this Windermere church, this Windermere church community needs to lament. Because every change that occurs brings with it some sort of loss. And this church has experienced a lot of changes in the last year and a half, So we need to lament. I have some tips about some healthy ways to lament, however. First of all, try to get real about what it is that is causing you harm. Whatever that might be, whether it's the pandemic or politics, the climate crisis, whatever, things at home. Identify what those things are that are causing you some harm. And then name your emotions. Sad, anger, frustration, whatever it is, name your emotions. For some of us, that's quite difficult. We might need help to name our emotions, but it's very powerful. And then, please express what you're feeling in authentic ways. I personally am a words person and a music person, and so singing works very well for me for a lament. But perhaps that's not you. Perhaps you would be able to lament by physical exercise, maybe through gardening, maybe through other arts like dance or painting or so forth. Find ways that are authentic to you in order to lament. And then finally, and by the way, these are not in a chronological order. You can do these out of order. Join a community that will hold a space for your grief. You know, as my pastoral care professor said, we shouldn't have people who are dragging us along, trying to force us to go to a destination that we don't really want to go to. We need people, when we are in need of lament, to simply walk with us. So we need to lament. And as we lament, we need to watch for signs of growth. Because we never know what kind of cracks might appear to let light in. After all, we are followers of Jesus of Nazareth. a Jewish man who grew up with Psalms of lament like Psalm 137. Jesus even quoted a lament psalm, Psalm 22, when he was on the cross. So we who follow Jesus, we proclaim Christ crucified, which is a lament. We lament that Christ was crucified. But not only that, we proclaim that Christ died. And we proclaim not only that Christ died, but we proclaim that Christ was buried. And we proclaim not only that Christ was buried, but we proclaim that the tomb was sealed. We not only proclaim that the tomb was sealed, but it was sealed all day on that dark, hard Saturday. And not only do we lament and proclaim that the tomb stayed sealed all day on Saturday, but that on Sunday, early on the first day of the week, some devoted women followers of Jesus came to the tomb to do what? To lament. To bring spices with which they could mourn. But don't you remember what those women found on that Sunday morning? They came to lament, but instead they found that the tomb was unsealed. They found that the stone in front of the tomb had been rolled away. But not only that the tomb was unsealed, but that there was no body inside. But not only that there was no body inside, but that the grave clothes in which the body was wrapped were folded in a neat pile. But not only were the grave clothes folded in a neat pile, but there were angels inside who proclaimed to the women that Jesus was risen. But not only were there angels inside who were proclaiming that Jesus was risen, but the risen Christ himself was there. And from that time, resurrection power has been flowing through the cracks of oppressive status quos, even until today. So yes, friends, we should lament. Let those cracks appear in our oppressive realities. Let those cracks appear and let the resurrection light in. And let's gain some new strength, some new hope, some new energy. Because God is putting a new song in our hearts. A song for healing for ourselves, healing for our community, the healing of the nation, the healing of the world, and all our relations. Friends, say, give glory to God.
Give glory to God.
Say, praise Jesus. Say, hallelujah. Say, amen.